It's still morning at NTV, Tuesday's edition, the 11th of February 2025. Now today is equally a significant day in national education. We do have the Ministry of Education and Sports that is going to be releasing the UCE results officially today at State House here in Nakasero. We'll be giving you a preview of that proceeding. We also do have the National Unity Platform that is yet to unveil its official flag bearer for the Kawempet North seat by-election that is around the corner. That unveiling also happening today. Our gentlemen are also on ground interacting with the Electoral Commission officials regarding the extension that was given by the Electoral Commission in line with the National Voter Register update. And so those are some of the things that we're paying attention to here as we journey on for morning at NTV. Something else that we're paying attention to here as we continue on with morning at NTV is amplifying the importance of education and transformative power. And that is our tech note. Now, education is a cornerstone of personal and societal development. For us in Uganda, it is a critical role of education in shaping the lives of our young people, and this cannot be overstated, particularly in creating economic growth, reducing inequality, and enhancing health outcomes. However, of course, challenges such as poverty, gender-based violence, early child marriages, teenage pregnancies, the aftermath of COVID-19 as a pandemic have definitely significantly disrupted the educational journey of many of our young people here in Uganda. Now, of course, these barriers have left countless children and adolescents out of the school system, threatening their future and the nation's progress without a doubt. And of course, it begs the question, what is the response to such a pressing issue? Well, this question is going to be more fronted to Joan Atuhaire Bugasa, who is a youth engagement department, to help us skin it a little bit better. Good morning to you and welcome to Morning at NTV.
Good morning. I'm glad to be here. My name is Joan Atuhaire. I am an officer at Reach a Hand Uganda. I work on school engagements under the Youth Engagement Department. Yes.
All right. Talk to us about the role of schools in creating and a safe and supporting environment, especially for learning purposes.
Yes, we acknowledge that schools are actually a very important aspect in our lives. As young people, we spend most of our time actually in schools. 95% of the time of young people is spent in schools, and therefore if schools are not safe, if they are not uninducive and a safe space for the young people, it could actually come out with a lot of bad outcomes. So it is very important to have schools as safe spaces and safe environments with no discrimination, with no violence, because it is where young people spend most of the time, and that's why we push and advocate for schools to be safe learning spaces. Yeah.
All right, I know that as an organization you're doing a specific campaign to categorize those particular children that you feel need a hand in getting back into the school system in a safe and harmonizing manner.
Yes, so as Reach a Hand Uganda, we have the Back to School campaign. This is an annual campaign that we carry out each year at the beginning of it, where we advocate for for young people to go back to school, and we do it at the community level and also in schools. So we engage parents, community leaders, the different stakeholders, including police itself, and we try to show the importance of education. We try to advocate to the parents, the guardians, that education should be a right. It is a right for every child to have education. It is a right for every young person to go back to school, and it shouldn't be a privilege. So the Back to School campaign, it forefronts our advocacy in terms of accessibility for education for all young people. Yes, so we do a lot under it, and we involve stakeholders. We involve the young people themselves, and we usually do it in line with the new guidelines for the schools which emphasizes the importance of also having young mothers back to school with no discrimination. And this is what we majorly push for, to have a safe environment for all young people, to encourage them to go back to school.
All right, let's talk about safe environment for specific categories of young people, teenage mothers.
Yes.
These are still children themselves. In as much as they've become mothers, society and communities tend to treat them now as matures, as adults, because they've given birth to children, and yet themselves are still children.
Yes.
And so through your participation and your collaboration with communities, how are you encouraging them to realize that, look here, this is still a child who still has a journey and must attain their right to education?
Yes, so like I said earlier, we engage right from the community level, and usually the young mothers, the biggest threat that they usually get is the trauma, the stigma that comes with being a young person, and unfortunately you get pregnant. So there is that burden that society puts on them of how they are a mischief. So we engage the community to show them that, yes, fine, this has happened. And in the recent years, we have really seen that from COVID-19, we are still living in the effects of that pandemic. And one of the major effects from that pandemic is the high and increasing levels of teenage pregnancy. So we try to advocate to the mothers that this is not the end of the world. There is much more to your life than just dropping out of school because you became a mother eventually. And we also advocate to the schools that when these teenage mothers come to school, they shouldn't face any type of discrimination. And as Reach a Hand Uganda, we have a peer-to-peer model that we carry out in schools. And this is through the peer learning sessions that we carry out. And through these peer learning sessions, we get to engage young people on the various topics that will promote behavior change, that will make their mental health safe. And through this, we usually engage young people in schools and we do counseling. So it is more of, yes, we've been in the community, we have advocated for you to go back to school. And when you are in school, we continuously have to engage you. So it is not a one-line kind of advocacy thing, but we continuously engage them, and we also ensure that they are safe, they are receiving the services that they are meant to receive.
Okay. Joan, speaking of engagement, yes, you are engaging the student or the mother child in this case, but then on the side of the schools that have to receive them and take them on for 3 months, what are the nature of engagements and programs that you're encouraging schools to uptake in order to have a safe consideration of such categories of young people? And then on the side of policies and practices, what are some of those policies that you are pushing be revised or even considered in the first place to be able to create a safe harnessing environment for young people to uptake education amidst the stigma and the barriers that you talk about? Yes,
so for the schools, we usually support schools to have a conducive environment for these young mothers, and usually we partner. Reach a Hand Uganda is partnering with Life Back Foundation. It is a therapeutical kind of organization, and we offer free counseling services in schools. And we do this because we believe that mental health is actually a very vital thing, and it usually sparks off most of the problems. The stigma, the discrimination, it all goes back to someone's mental health. So as Reach a Hand Uganda, we encourage schools to uptake the model of counseling and guidance. I wouldn't say it should be a must, but we really encourage schools to uptake it, and also to have ongoing checks with these young people that we would call have special needs, so that they can see that things are actually moving a bit well for them. And because at the end of the day, we want to see all young people achieving their dreams. Life cannot end because of one traumatic experience. So that is what we are doing as Reach a Hand Uganda. And also for policies, we're trying to push for, more implementation of the policy that was placed in the guidelines from Ministry of Health of having teenage mothers back to school, because we understand that we understand and we respect that some of the schools are deeply enrooted on religious and cultural norms, and we believe that culture should be respected. But at the end of it all, yeah, the waves are changing. So how about if we try to embrace the policies that are existing, and we try to see that at the end of it all, every young person achieves education.
All right, you've talked about the impact of religion and culture. Of course, there's early marriages in there, and the economic challenges that have led to a high school dropout, especially post-COVID-19. It begs the question, what are the other stakeholders actually doing to mobilize community and people to actually engage in self-learning environments? Yeah,
so the stakeholders are really trying. They're really trying in a way that they usually, because they have easy access to the administrators of the schools, so they get to engage them, and they show the advantage of, you know, creating schools as safe spaces. And usually also some of the cases that could actually come out of schools, the stakeholders in the communities are the immediate people that get to them. And through this, they are able to handle the issues that are hindering students in schools not to have a safe space. And at the same time, they can also have access to the heads of the schools and promote a culture of having schools as safe spaces and environments for learning.
Okay, all right. What are some of the challenges that you do experience with these campaigns? Because they're annual campaigns, as you've talked about. So what are some of those barriers that have been consistent in you doing this advocacy work?
Yeah, well, I think one of the major barriers that we have faced as Reach Your Hand Uganda, the stigma that lives in the young people that have faced traumatic experiences and cannot go back to school. Usually it becomes a bit hard sometimes to get someone out of their shell. Yeah, it is a bit hard to like get someone to open up and embrace what you're trying to say. But of course, like I said, we have partnerships and also our peer-to-peer model. It is really, really doing wonders, because we believe that young people listen best to their fellow young people, because I mean, we are both in the same age bracket, and we know what hinders us, we know how to handle each other. So the peer-to-peer model is really helping, and it has helped to, you know, spark off conversations with these young people. And maybe also the issue of poverty. The issue of poverty is also like a big challenge when it comes to pushing for education access. Usually parents, due to the increasing poverty levels, yes, you might tell them of how it is very important to have their children back in school and everything, but how are their income levels? And usually we try to come up with livelihood programs in communities. Yes, and also we try to advocate for stakeholders to, you know, pitch in and try to see a way forward on how to have each young person in school.
All right, Joan, as we close this conversation, what are some of the successes that have been registered in community with stakeholders, but more so with the young people, regards the advocacy work that you're doing and call to action by and large?
Yes, so we have a lot of successes. As Reach Your Hand Uganda, we are cutting across 56 districts in Uganda. For example, in Kasese, we have a school that we work in, and with this campaign, we saw an increasing number of girls going back to school. Yes, we've seen increasing number of students get more interested in actually having education and continuing to the highest levels. And we have also seen stakeholders on board doing the work, putting in the efforts to ensure that they engage the parents and the school heads. And a call to action would be, as young people, this is our generation, and we are at the forefront. Education is a right. We should all be in school. We should all access education, because at the end of it all, we are the leaders of tomorrow. Uganda puts its hope on us. Yes.
All right, thank you so much, Joan Mugasa, for your efforts in ensuring that in one way or another we keep that right at the helm of our society's attention in creating safe and supportive learning environments for our children. Now, speaking of environments, we are going to go